to Two Giant Goofballs, a New York Giants podcast. Are you a goofball that loves Giants football? If so, sit back and relax as we talk about the team that both excites and frustrates us so much. And now, here are your goofball hosts, Drew and Rob.
Welcome, fellow goofballs, to Two Giant Goofballs, the New York Giants podcast. I am Drew, joined as always by...
I'm me, Rob. Let's talk about the hard knock times.
Yes, and it's a weird feeling after watching this first episode, guys, I gotta say. Now watched it a few times here, trying to take a look and see, if we missed anything the first time, because that typically happens whenever you watch a show. But I gotta say, it's like there's things that I really was intrigued by, mixed in with not a lot.
Yeah,
I wasn't expecting anything crazy. I wasn't expecting Wink and Dable to go ahead and start punching each other out or anything crazy. I wasn't expecting that, obviously. But it's
you're gonna say that for episode 4. Come on, man.
I feel like they saved a lot of the best parts of the. They didn't save the best parts of the show. So they saved everything for the trailer. It was oh, well, the trailer's coming. Let's go ahead and put all this stuff out there now. As opposed to just going ahead and giving us everything in the show. So
we're taking it off week 1.
Yeah, exactly. Listen, maybe it's like a British show where you have to develop the characters for the first season.
2 years in development.
But I gotta say, I look at it this way: as a Giant fan, I really liked it because I'm a Giants fan. Now, if I was a fan of any other team, I would have been bored out of my mind potentially.
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, because Eagle fans might be, why I want to see what happened with Barkley, how that come down, a lot of Eagle fans said, I do a lot of work in Philadelphia, they're how did we get Saquon?
How did we get where we are?
Yeah, so it's something like that. Dakota might have enjoyed, watching the part about Barkley, but they got right to pretty much the end of the episode, right in the preview of the episode.
Yeah, it was one of those kind of shows. We're gonna start at the end, like Memento, but that's what they did. But yeah, it was an interesting show overall. Let's go over a couple topics real quick before we do. Welcome to a weird time frame for us. We told you guys we were doing a weird time frame because
happy holidays,
Fourth of July plans and all, as Deb says,
America
here because she does what she's told. She turned on her notifications, guys. So turn on the notifications, guys. We're going to be on morning, early afternoon tomorrow as well, guys. So it'll be odd time tomorrow. Again, we're trying to make it where you guys can enjoy your 4th of July and still watch the shows because we're dedicated to giving you guys a show 3 times a week, as we promised in the get-go, at the very minimum. So let's get into the show here because, some interesting things here and some not so interesting. But we got to start off with the big one here, and that's Joe Schoen's love for peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. Because, oh my God.
I was going to bring this up. I was like, you know what? I didn't realize I had so much in common with our GM.
It's could they shove the "he's an everyman" motto down our throats any further? I grew up on peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. I eat peanut butter and jelly sandwiches wherever.
No, 2001, I started Panthers as a scout. I went all the way up. I worked my way to the GM. Jelly sandwiches.
And of course, they have blue in their colors. So I ate blueberry jam with my peanut butter and jelly.
Now I go to raspberry.
Did he make blueberry jam? I don't even know. No, now he does the mixed berry. Yeah, he has the blue and the red.
Yeah.
With the white chocolate peanut butter spread at that point, so it has all the colors. But it's guys, I think Joe Schoen is a little more like a regular guy than he lets on at the podium during talks and stuff like that. But it's I get it. He likes peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. There's more to making me feel like you're a regular guy than enjoying peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. Dropping the F-bomb, he dropped the F-bomb 30 times. That made me feel more like he's one of us.
Correct.
That's what I want to see, Joe Schoen. Not you go, oh, I'm a regular guy. Here's my peanut butter and jelly sandwich to prove it. So, that doesn't prove it.
I've been doing this for 24 years.
That proves you have the taste buds of a child. Stop at a Chick-fil-A or Five Guys. Then you're like one of us.
Diabetes.
I'm just saying something like that. But I thought
Stop by a Wawa.
If they took his obsession, because I don't know if he actually is obsessed or if it's all for TV, with this peanut butter and jelly thing, they did a good job of showing the history of him coming up in the league and stuff like that. And I thought, even though we as Giants fans, most of us knew that when we hired him, I thought it's still a good story. It's still something that I like that they showed. I just think the peanut butter and jelly thing being mentioned nonstop was just a little over the top. Even he's like, I got hired by the Giants as a GM, so I drove up from Carolina with my peanut butter and jelly sandwiches.
Yeah. I assumed he was coming down from Buffalo at that point. How that drives that.
Right. Whatever it was. I'm just saying, it's just he made it a point, and I don't know if it was, I should say him.
He had two peanut butter jelly sandwiches.
The show made it a point to go ahead and shove this peanut butter jelly thing down our throats. I get it. He likes peanut butter jelly sandwiches. Okay.
Now I know I'll have for dinner tonight.
I like bourbon. I can't have that while I drive, okay? If anything, you should feel bad for me. No, you can't. No, you can't.
You can. It's not a good idea.
You cannot. Let me be very clear that we cannot.
I don't condone it.
The Goofball podcast does not go ahead and condone drinking and driving. Don't
just
get us
saying you can do a lot of things.
God damn it.
Just saying you can do a lot of things. You probably shouldn't do a lot of things, but you can do a lot of things.
No, you can't. Stick to peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, Joe Schoen. That's your thing. That's your thing, I guess. At least get a fancy one now. I don't know what a fancy one, like an artisan peanut butter and jelly sandwich. You've earned it.
Peanut butter and Nutella. That screams, I need milk.
That's not really artisan per se, but okay. Now, a part that I thought was kind of interesting, though, was all the talk about Daniel Jones. There's a lot of talk about Daniel Jones, guys. And we talked about it off season. We're like, okay, is the organization really serious about Daniel Jones? Are they determined to give him another shot? I got to say, the way I read this whole thing and what was shown, again, this is what was shown. This is what the Giants wanted us to see. This is what the NFL wanted us to see. Be very clear on that. We are under no illusion we got to see everything what they really think. That'd be stupidity to think that. But
yes,
what the message they want to convey is Daniel Jones is still a question mark. In fact, the show called him a $40 million question mark, which is a really expensive question mark, guys. That's a lot of money for a question mark.
100% the cap.
They talked about the fact that he's injury prone. They said, Joe Schoen basically saying that you can't ignore it, that you need a contingency plan. They did a nice little montage of him working out. There's a lot of montages, I felt like, in the show. Yeah. There was a montage without the 80s music. There wasn't the fun 80s
montage.
Here he is fighting back to get back on the field.
Gotta have a montage.
I think that's what I wanted to see it. It would be great. Look at him bend that knee. It would have been awesome. But
look at him stretch that.
Yeah.
Leg out.
They didn't do any of that. That'd been fun. Do a little 80s montage. Go for it. If you're gonna keep showing montage scenes, just go for it. But they showed all that. You see the nasty, lovely scar on his knee at that point from the surgery and stuff like that. But it was pretty obvious Joe Schoen was not willing to give up on Daniel Jones. And they made it a point to say we need to allocate towards helping him because he is a question mark. He really is. They don't seem to know what to think of him, which is kind of scary. But you can tell they want to give him every chance. They like him. That's pretty obvious by the way they talk about him. And that's what they did this offseason, guys. They get him a top flight receiver. They spent the money on offensive line. Whether they fixed it or not, we'll find out. But at least to be a lot better than it was last year. They went ahead and did what they could to give things around him. Obviously they lost Saquon, which hurts, but they went and got Devin Singletary. He's not a bad running back in this league. So,
no.
Yeah, if you wondered if the Giants are sold on Daniel Jones, the answer is no. But if you're wondering if they're going to give him every chance to prove that he deserves staying in this team past this year, that answer is yes. And I think that's probably the fairest way of putting it. Fairest way of putting it.
You're right.
They're not committed in the long term. They're committed in the short term.
They're pretty much in the same situation when they paid him.
Isn't it sad that I feel like this is like Sam Darnold and the Jets all over again, except longer?
Yeah,
that's what it feels like. That's what it feels like. You know, maybe we could have included Daniel Jones to the Panthers. They like those kind of quarterbacks.
Ooh,
I see. Didn't think about it. I'm just saying. No, in all fairness, we need Daniel Jones. He is the best quarterback we have in the roster. I know no one likes to hear it, but it's the truth. I like the fact that they're doing what they got to do to give him a shot to win this year. Because if he's who you're going to go with, give him a chance to win. Give him every opportunity. Because then you know if he goes somewhere else, that you gave him every shot. There's no worry about, oh my God, it's going to go to blank and succeed. Because that's a legit concern, guys. Like, do you think that right now there's teams not kicking themselves in the butt for the way Baker Mayfield played last year?
100%.
Of course there is. Do you think there's not teams that kick themselves in the butt for the way Geno Smith played a couple of years ago?
Of course. Yeah. He was a backup on a lot of teams.
Yeah.
Never gave him the shot.
Exactly. How many teams do you think are how much do you think the Rams, and granted they won the Super Bowl, how much do you think they might be wishing they maybe had held on to Goff, who's obviously much younger than Matt Stafford?
And, we could have gotten cheaper.
I'm just saying, like, they don't want to have that, I don't want to say buyer's remorse, but that seller's remorse is what it seems like.
But, I mean, they also made the point at the beginning of the episode, it's, you got to know when to hold them, got to know when to fold them. Get it? Just like gambling.
Know when to walk away, know when to run. You're doing Kenny Rogers. I'm on to you. That was on Kenny Rogers, not a Hard Knocks.
Yeah.
We better count.
No, but they said at the beginning, it's like, I mean, what's comment they made? It's a lot like doing stocks. Like you got to know when to buy and when to sell.
Yep. Oh, it is. And that's a lot of what football is. That's a lot of what football is as far as talent valuations and roster building. It really is.
So you get rid of someone now at a high end quality, and they may be good for another year, but instead of you paying for a 3 or 4 year contract, you lose one good year out of the person, and then they have 2 to 3 bad years after that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's a win of getting rid of that person.
Like a guy we're going to talk about a little bit, I think, is that mentality. But let's talk about the D. Oh yes, the D. Oh yes, it's time to talk about that defense because, listen, offense gets the glory, but defense wins the game, as our friend Dennis Rodman says.
Ooh.
In the spectacular movie. Was it Double Team? Is that what that was with him and Jean-Claude Van Damme?
I think so.
I think it was Double Team. Yes. Horrendous movie, by the way, guys. Don't watch it. But anyway, there was a lot of talk about the defense there overall. They it starts off, they start off with another little montage, but this release had a little background music where they're talking about the Giants' legacy, starting about how the Giants started the chant of defense, which is a New York Giant thing. All the other teams are just imitating.
We other teams should stop hating.
Exactly.
With real defense, exactly. Please stand up.
Yes.
Please stand up.
And then they start talking about the legendary defensive coordinators the Giants have had over the years. Tom Landry, Bill Belichick, 2 of the best coaches ever to be in the NFL and got their start with us. And then the talk came of Wink Martindale. And then they show a little montage again. I feel like we're going to say the word montage today more often than ever.
Don't forget about Belichick.
I did say Belichick. I said Tom Landry and Bill Belichick.
He didn't. I apologize.
So, but they showed a little montage about reporters talking about Wink Martindale leaving the team and eventually quitting and people not knowing where he's at exactly and stuff like that. They kind of glanced over it. I'm assuming they're going to go in chronological order. I'm assuming that. And if that's the case, missing the exit of Wink Martindale and how that went down from HBO's standpoint, not necessarily the Giants, but from HBO Max, whatever the hell you want to call it.
Just Max.
Well, it depends if you have it on TV or if you stream. If you have it on TV, it's HBO. If you have it on stream, you're Max.
It's Max brought to you by HBO because on my TV it still comes up as Max.
Yeah, but you bootleg. I know you're better than that. You're not paying for cable.
I'm not paying for cable.
Yeah, exactly. I called you off your illegal actions live on TV. You are people on TV right now. Anyway, I think it's a big loss for Max, HBO, again, whatever the hell you want to call them, that they didn't show that part of it there too much. I would have loved to see something, whether it's Dable talking about it, people as they're discussing who they're going to interview for the thing. Like, hey, we don't want this because this is what happened here. I would have loved to see a little more of that. And again, assuming they're doing it in a chronological order, they're probably not going to show it, guys, which tells you the Giants just want to move on from the situation. I think obviously the fact that Jordan Raanan had his article there last week about all the coaches wanting to leave means this is still creeping up. It's still coming up as a big topic. They want that story dead. Why bring it up, bring it back to life, and then keep having to have Dable dealing with it? I think that's their mentality. Now, us as Giant fans, of course, we want to know what's going on. Of course you do. I want to hear him talk about it. Like, I want Dable to go, that guy MF'd me like you wouldn't believe. Screw him.
Yeah.
Like, I wanted to see that. I didn't expect to see it, but I wanted to.
Yeah. They sent him a gun. Just want to do what he wanted to do. He wouldn't listen to anyone.
He's the head coach. He did this and this during the season. So, at this point, then he leaves because I fired his friend who we didn't think was doing a good job. So, just something huge.
That's not even that far fetched because that's what a lot of Giants fans just assume.
Yeah, and like I said, I thought they would talk about it at least a little bit. I didn't think they'd go crazy about it. I didn't think like Dable would sit there and go on a rant about it. But I thought they'd at least bring it up, not just show a 15-second montage of reporters talking about it, and then talk about the fact that they were going to go ahead and get a new defensive coordinator. Keep in mind, guys, they talked about what happened in the season. They talked about the huge disappointment the season was, the injuries. They had players that were talked to after the game at the last game last season there. It's not like they skipped over that time period. They just skipped over that portion of that time period.
Yeah, it was 15 minutes in when they said, not even 15 minutes, 10 minutes in when they're like, the Giants finished 6 wins last year. And Dable in the locker room. You could be on the high road and you could be on the low road pretty much.
Yeah. Yeah, which I thought that speech was a little bit odd. Like, you win some, you lose some. Oh, well, guys. And I know he didn't mean it that way, but that's how it came out because they showed that little clip and that's it,
Yeah.
But yeah, like I said, I thought that was hugely disappointing. They went into a montage as well about Dexter Lawrence. Went ahead and, showed some of his film, talked about how good a player he is at that point, which thought it came off a little weird. It's kind of like, why are you forcing this into this? Like, we're not about to talk about Dexter Lawrence. Why are you forcing this in the show? But they forced it into the show. They had a meeting with the personnel team there talking about defensive players they can get. Chris Jones was definitely talked about. And I thought it's interesting that they brought that up in the show because I don't think as Giant fans, any of us thought there was a shot in hell they would get Chris Jones. I think Chris Jones wanted to stay in Kansas City where he's winning Super Bowl rings. But B, he's going to want a lot of money, guys. He wanted to set the record for defensive tackle, defensive line contracts. That was his goal from the get-go. So to me, that's just a little crazy that they even talked about that as an option. He ended up with 5 years, $160 million, guys. That was his record-setting contract. It's actually 5 years, 158.75 to be exact. I had to look it up to verify real quick. But you're still talking 31 and change a year. Like, he got paid more than Brian Burns, and we all know how nervous that one made me.
Yeah.
But, yes, the combo, they said, Dexter Lawrence and Chris Jones up the middle would have been freaking amazing. Would have been absolutely amazing. But that's like a movie you make in Madden. Like, that's not a movie you make in real life. You're smiling because I'm right. I'm right.
Yeah.
No one goes,
how many times you said the franchise on easy with the cap? That's ridiculous.
That's spent $57 million at the cap on defensive tackles.
Yeah.
Like that's not against you fired as a GM. I'm sorry, but that does. that's just a little too much there, guys. A little too much. They talked about Brian Burns as well. They mentioned that he was tagged when it had to be traded for. Joe Schoen then suggested that part that it would take a first-round pick and more to get him. Now, obviously, we got him. We got him for less than that. So I don't know if they put that clip in to make Joe Schoen seem like a genius for getting him for less, or legit he thought that and got him for less. I ain't gonna knock him either way.
Yeah.
So
it's like he knew someone.
Yeah, he did. He did. We're gonna talk about that. They also talked about Christian Wilkins breaking up his friendship with Dexter Lawrence, who we played with over at Clemson. Shane said that Dexter actually texted him asking him what he thought of Wilkins because he wanted the team to be interested in Wilkins, basically, is what that was insinuating. Again, you don't put that much money into that position. I'm sorry. You have a top-tier talent. That's great. You got a guy that Dexter Lawrence that I think any team would basically give anything they could to get him, except for the Chiefs. It's the one exception they would probably keep with Chris Jones at that point. But, that's where you're at. I mean, of course, you got the stud already. You want to get a stud at other positions. So, but it was interesting because they talked a lot about defensive tackles, defensive line, and the whole reason they did that is because Joe Schoen and Brian Dable had to go find a new defensive coordinator. Obviously, they went ahead and offered the job to Shane Bowen. They discussed that on the show. They're like, "Oh, we're going to offer Shane Bowen the job," which is kind of casual. It was kind of weird. Like, "Oh, okay, that'd be great. Let's do that." Like, as if they didn't have conversations and decide together to make that kind of move. Like, that's not a move you just widely make on your own, They really emphasize, especially Dable, to how great his defenses were against the rush. We know the Giants have had trouble stopping the running backs there for quite a few years now, it seems like, especially the last two. Wink, wink.
Yes. Oh, hey now.
Had to do it. But, yeah, so they basically then showed Shane welcoming Shane Bowen on board there, joining the team. They then showed him in the war room. Bowen talked with the projected screen blurred out. They actually did a good job of blurring out the screen, I got to say, because it looked like it was blurred out, but it wasn't like the obvious blur like cops. It wasn't like people's heads and cops. But it was definitely blurred where you couldn't read what they were saying there, which was interesting because the trailer, it was not. So they must have blurred it in post-production because I took a screenshot of that trailer. I still have it. You can still see everything on that whiteboard. So it was just talks about positions, by the way, guys. Nothing good. Or we would have broken that down as an episode. They're going to give us all kinds of lingo and all kinds of fun, potentially. Yeah. So the Giants banned us. Remember talking to a Giants player for giving you guys too much information. Which, from what I heard, actually, the Giants rush guys, they usually get some good interviews there. That's like their calling card, so to speak. Like they've gotten, current Giants. They've gotten guys like Kurt Warner before as well. Like they've gotten some good interviews. And they're saying the Giants are basically telling all the players not to talk to them already as it is. So, yeah, we could have got ourselves really shadow banned by the Giants there. but yeah, so they're in the war room, and he talks about his defense. He says his base defense is 3 defensive line, 2 edge, 2 linebackers, 4 DBs. Again, that's a typical 3-4 defense, so that's nothing crazy, nothing earth-shattering there. He talks about the importance of the linebacker position, though, in his defense, and that was not earth-shattering, but it's big news because we're starting to get an idea of what he's going to do. He called it the smartest position on the field. That was his exact wording, smartest position. So I think it's pretty obvious that Bobby Okereke is about to be potentially the most important player on this team. Shane liked to have guys like Xavier McKinney get the green dot there, so to speak, and call the defense. It's a little easier to call from the back. You can see more things at that point there. But Bowen's going to do it with a linebacker. He's going to give the linebacker the ability to do what he's got to do at that point and see, which is the way typical defenses are run. So I'm kind of curious to see how it works. Dable then asked him where Isaiah Simmons lands in the scheme. We saw that in the trailer originally. Bowen said first, second down nickel, then playing money on third. So again, we're going to see Simmons more in coverage potentially than we have in the past. But what the nice thing is let's say it's a running play. Now you don't have a 180-pound slot nickel guy out there. You have a legit linebacker out there. So there's a benefit to it, which is part of why they were so good at stopping the run in Tennessee. They obviously clearly care about doing that. That's something they made a big thing to do. I'm not sure that's the biggest thing to focus on nowadays in the current NFL, but that's what they're doing. And considering how bad we've been at it, I'll take the guy who's focused on it because we got to fix it. Bowen also was then asked about having a penetrator on defense. He said he wants guys that attack. He then questions if Boogie Basham or Ryder Anderson can then play that potential penetrator role. Bowen then asked the question, if you take an inside guy who takes then asked the question, if you could, would you take an inside guy who takes the pressure off Dexter Lawrence or an outside guy? Then they cut the screen. They didn't even show the answers. I was like, yeah. Finally, we're going to get some inside knowledge on what these guys think. And just and cut.
I mean, at the same token, the Giants organization doesn't want to let up too much to other teams as well, and how they're going to think about their defense this year. Obviously.
Well, I get it. Like I said, as a Giant fan, I don't want to give an advantage to the team we're going to play. It's just, as a Giant fan, I want inside knowledge. It's almost like you'd have to show your official NFL New York Football Giants fan card to watch the show. Don't tell anybody.
Please.
I would love to watch the uncut version one day. But I mean, it's pretty obvious that Bowen was all about pass rush and attacking the quarterback. And Shane said, music to my ears, a pass rush, which was interesting because I took that as a little bit of a dig on Wink. Maybe I'm crazy. I took that as a little bit of a ding, a hit on Wink because Wink didn't have your typical pass rush. He just kind of blitzed from wherever, and it didn't always result in sacks. It resulted in making the quarterback uncomfortable, and pressures, QB hits. It wouldn't say that the team was a sack machine team, though. And with considering the number of times we blitzed, that's a little crazy. But that's how Wink's defense was. So it was interesting that he put that. Like I said, I took that as a slight against Wink. I'm not saying he meant it that way, but that's how I took it.
I took a back at it. I wouldn't say it was a straight dig knife turn, but it was just a little all right, it's how we played for the past couple of years, and let's move on. Here we go. Yay, pass rush. So I mean, you're not wrong, but
I may be right. I may be crazy.
Shane may be crazy.
But it just may be a lunatic you're looking for.
Yeah, another Shane that we're looking for.
Speaking of something crazy, let's pay the bills. Oh, yeah.
Enjoying the show? Looking for more goofball action? Consider a membership at buymeacoffee.com/2giantgoofballs. Memberships start at just $5 and give you additional goofball access. One-time support payments also available starting at just $3. buymeacoffee.com/2giantgoofballs.
All righty, guys. Next up, we got to talk about the East-West Shrine Bowl, which, of course, was over in Dallas, Texas. Though I shouldn't say Dallas, Arlington, Texas, since the Dallas Cowboys don't actually play in Dallas there. But, yeah, I mean, they talk a little bit about what it was. For those who aren't aware, it's just one of those basic all-star games to do at the end of the college football year to kind of showcase guys who are about to come out of the draft. So this was February 1st was the game. So you're talking late January because they were showing them doing the practices there. Joe attended. He talked about the importance of seeing all those players, mentioned the fact that obviously you can't go to every single college team and see every college player, during the season there. The interesting thing was that I thought was the fact that he had a good talk and talking about Frank Gore. Obviously, Frank Gore had a son in the draft this past year. Frank Gore Jr., no originality in that name whatsoever. It's can't think of a name. What do you call him? Please call him Junior. But I mean, I didn't realize that the relationship that Joe Schoen and Frank Gore had. I knew obviously Gore played in Buffalo towards the end of his career. I think his very last year he played actually was in Buffalo, if not second to last. I'm trying to remember off the top of my head.
It was last year's. I think it's last 2 years, right? Did he play for 2 years?
I thought he, actually, no, he went to play for the Jets last, wasn't it? Now you're going to make me look this up. Frank Gore stats. Let's see here. But anyway, Frank Gore, obviously one of the best to ever really put on a uniform. His second to last year, 2019, is when he played there. Had about 600 yards there. Played his last year with the Jets. That was 2019, though. So, like I said, a little bit before the, when Joe Schoen was still in Buffalo there. But anyway, he mentioned that Gore was the one who got his eyes on Singletary when the Bills drafted Devin Singletary, which I thought was interesting. Also, perhaps a little foreshadowing. But, he said that basically that Frank Gore had an eye for the talent at the running back position and was a guy who was a very good scout for that position. Is now doing some scout work there for the San Francisco 49ers, he said, which would make sense. Obviously, that's where, Frank Gore got most of his accolades and yards and that kind of stuff there. What was interesting was they started talking about Saquon. Obviously, I think at that time that was the topic of the Giants, basically what to do with Saquon. He's speaking with Gore and an agent and talking about how running backs drop at 27, according to data. Mentions all the carries that Saquon had, between the Giants and Penn State. It's kind of basically seeming like he wasn't too interested in him. Kind of like, this probably isn't a good long-term investment. That's basically the vibe I got out of this.
Yeah.
Like, they're not trying to be disrespectful about it. They're just saying, like, that's not smart to spend money like this on a guy whose history shows you is going to start degressing.
Yeah, I mean, and especially from a guy coming from like Gore, who's always put up numbers.
Yeah, but Frank Gore played like 37 or something like that. Like, it was insane.
Yeah.
When that man played, he definitely broke the traditional. I think he played almost a decade more than that. It's like
pretty much
10 years after that time period. It's crazy. So, they also talked about Saquon's talent, though, which obviously is undeniable, which I thought was a nice way of trying to not be fully like negative. Like, they're trying to say, yeah, he's special. He does things that other people can't do and stuff like that. But they also talk about tagging him again and, potentially, and didn't seem optimistic at all about getting a deal done, which I thought was interesting because this is, another month or so before, free agency started. This is at the timetable right around, but like the Giants haven't even talked to him at the combine yet when we knew that the Giants were going to do it. So it's kind of like things weren't positive with the Giants from the get-go, basically, One thing that I really thought was interesting, though, is Mike Kafka, our offensive coordinator, was a coach at the East-West Shrine Bowl. And they didn't even mention that. In fact, Kafka's name didn't get brought up at all. I did not see his face there the entire episode. No. And listen, we talked about the fact that they were talking about defense. Shane Bowen was there, obviously. I don't know if that's what the plan was or not, as far as let's do another episode later on with that, I don't know. I really don't. But I thought it was kind of interesting that they didn't even bring up, the offensive coordinator that's coaching at this game. Like, that would be something that a lot of teams would brag about. Like, hey, we're going there to see the players. In fact, there's our offensive coordinator right there coaching this squad over there. Like, that's something to bring up.
Yeah.
We talked about going into this, but I'm kind of curious to see how things play out with the Kafka situation. Like, is there bad blood between him and Dable? Is there bad blood between him and the Giants? And I'm not ready to say there is based on that omission, but I'm definitely not thinking good about that relationship, if that makes sense.
I mean, you're also taking after one episode. We saw
that's what I'm saying.
Highlights. Yeah, you saw a smidge of highlights for the second episode, which one of the best quotes of the episode one was in the highlights for episode 2. I thought it was amazing. We'll get to that later. But you don't know, episode 3 or 4, that might be more about the offense, and you might hear a lot of good things about Kafka. Like,
I just thought that was a chance to show something he's doing and kind of show how well thought he is by some circles. And they didn't take that opportunity. I thought that was a little weird.
A smidge.
It's kind of like when your kid gets like the lead in the play and you don't go or mention it or buy a playbill. Just say that's what I feel like. They really totally just missed an opportunity to showcase him and give his thoughts on what the NFL world thinks of him. Because we talked about it before, like Giant fans don't necessarily like Kafka too much. They don't hate him necessarily. They just don't think he's that great of an OC. He hasn't done anything amazing yet. The NFL world thinks that he's doing a good job, though. He gets head coaching interviews. You know, the Seattle Seahawks were ready to steal him flat out from us to be their OC. Like, the rest of the NFL world thinks nicely of him. For some reason, the Giants didn't give a chance to show that. So they also showed the Senior Bowl, and I thought that was a little odd. Like, we're going to go to the East-West Shrine Bowl, we're going to go to the Senior Bowl, but it was more like, here's a shot of a conversation there, as opposed to showing what he did and how he evaluated talent at the Senior Bowl or at the East-West Shrine Bowl. I would like to see a little more of that than the chit-chatting. The chit-chatting was interesting, but I would have liked to see, like, you know, how he evaluates players and stuff like that. Again, that's the competitive issue with the Hard Knocks. You don't want to give that out. But yeah, Joe Schoen shown with Dan Morgan, the GM of the Panthers, and introduced to Dave Canales, the new Panthers head coach, who was the offensive coordinator last year for the Bucs. Dan Morgan kind of, you know, sarcastically mentions the fact that he and Shane talk literally every day. They talked about how their families are very close and that these guys even vacation together, which I knew they had a relationship. I didn't realize they vacation together. That's not just like close. That's like we're besties, and there might be a pineapple in our door when we go on a cruise. I'm just saying, like,
upside down.
I listen. I wouldn't mind going to a vacation with friends. I'm not saying that's weird, but if you're doing it on a regular basis, that's, I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy. I've just never had somebody like, you know what? Let's go on vacation with this person, and let's go on vacation again with that person, and let's go on vacation again with that person. Am I crazy?
I mean, I understand it, but I don't do it personally.
Yeah, like I said,
it's one thing to do with the significant other, but like, and your family.
Oh, obviously, the significant other, and like, kids, and blah blah blah, like that.
Yeah,
yes, obviously you vacation with those people.
but
I'm just saying, a guy that's like a work colleague that you've known for a few years. I don't know if that's the way you do it. Just saying, pineapple. What? Who said that? Who knows if they're swingers? They're probably not. Anyway,
for the pineapples.
Joe Schoen then jokes and asks him and Bill's GM Brandon Beane, who of course he worked with in Buffalo, if they wanted to trade up to 6. He almost seemed to be bragging about having the 6th overall pick, which I thought was a little bit of a weird flex, considering how we got the 6th overall pick. You know what I'm saying? It's like, we got the 6th overall pick. Yeah, we sucked.
Yeah, but at the same time, like, but there's also a dick because these talkers to the Panthers, who should have had the 1st overall pick.
Yes.
And who was not in the 1st round. So it was kind of a dig of like,
it was different for both, I felt like.
Yeah. It was, I mean, it's definitely more towards the Panthers. Let's be real.
I'm just saying, it just seems a little bit of an odd, weird flex there. Dan Morgan then also asked Shane if he wants to give him 2 1s for Burns, which is a little interesting. And then he kind of even goes down in the initial conversation. It says 1 and something. So, you know, it kind of seemed like, again, we don't know too much behind the scenes, obviously. There's no Hard Knocks Panthers, but it's like, it almost seems like they really wanted to get rid of Burns, and they really wanted to get rid of him rather quickly.
Pretty much.
Yeah. Like, you're in the initial negotiations, which are kind of said casually, and you've already gone down in value. Like, we talked about how, like, Panther fans are already a little upset hearing about some of the stuff with the Burns trade now. I'd be pissed. Like, could you imagine the opposite side of this? Like, let's say Dexter Lawrence wants to leave town, and you're like, okay, Dexter Lawrence wants to leave.
2 number 1s.
Would you give me 2 2s? Okay, how about 1 and something else? Like, that's the first conversation Joe Schoen had with somebody. I'd be pissed as a Giant fan. Like, absolutely pissed. Like, that's not the way you negotiate. You shut up and let them talk.
100%.
It's like buying a car. He who talks first loses. Say your piece and shut up. Even I know that. I can never shut up. Saying like that's
obviously,
like that's the way it is. Like that's what the rule is. So yeah, obviously we knew that move was not overnight. That was obviously a long talked about process there. Dan Morgan, like I said, he's gonna get some slack for that. But Joe Schoen mentions his grandmother lives apparently in South Bend and loves Notre Dame quarterback Sam Hartman, who I believe went to the Saints. That's looking to see. I think he went to the Saints. But she told him that Hartman is cute and said to him, "I may be 93, but I ain't blind." I thought that was the funniest, absolute funniest comment of the whole show there. By the way, he signed actually with the Commanders. I looked it up, the Commanders who signed him. So, yeah, but he said a little bit interesting back and forth there with a few GMs there. But if we're being honest here, the real topic of this whole entire show, the one that everybody cares about,
Shaq himself,
Saquon Barkley. And we got to put up the picture of John Mara not looking so happy in this because things did definitely not work out how John Mara wanted. So at the beginning of the show, they talked about the impending Barkley decision. They actually re-showed that clip at the very end as well. They were analyzing free agents in January, talking about getting value. They stressed the value part. They talked about Zach Moss, Devin Singletary, Tony Pollard, DeAndre Swift, Josh Jacobs. They talked about all the big names that were out there at that point there. And what I really thought was interesting, the Giants seemed to recognize that the offensive line hurt Barkley, and they thought that teams might notice that as well. Like it's almost like his 1,000, he almost got 1,000 yards this year, but his basic 1,000 yards he got were like 1,200 yards because he was playing for that bad of a line.
I didn't take it as much as that. It's just when they're talking the value of Barkley, and they're talking about like a team with a better offensive line will pay more for him because he would be more productive. It wasn't so much big about it. You could take it that way, but I took it as like them looking at the value of the player, and if we can't block for the guy, and the guy that we could get for half his cost only gets 100, maybe 200 less yards, like
I get
what's the better value? So like that's how I took it.
I guess the question would be that if Saquon's 1,000 would be 1,200 elsewhere, and again that's my numbers, that's not their numbers. If his 1,000 is 1,200 yards elsewhere, then is it safe to say that somebody like Devin Singletary's 800 might be 650 to 700 here? I'm just saying.
Well,
like,
that's the old line, but that's an old.
I get it. I get it, but that's what I'm saying as far as the interesting part as far as the value. The big one though, the big scene was Joe Schoen sitting down with John Mara and talking about how it doesn't make sense to franchise him. Then they discuss tagging him and then trading his rights. And Joe Schoen said, "What are we really gonna get?" Like, telling you, if I was Saquon, I would have taken that very personal. And this is why they don't like showing behind the scenes, because you could like Saquon as a person and take the business side of it and say something like that. And you're not wrong. Let me be very clear. Joe Schoen is not wrong for what he said. It's an honest evaluation of the situation.
Correct.
Like, what are they going to give you for a 27-year-old running back they're going to have to pay top dollar the second they get him? Nothing. Here's a 5th-round pick. Enjoy. So, he then threw out a number of $7 million. There's a casual number. It was like saying that's definitely the offer. But he basically said that he didn't want to disrespect him.
Which I thought was nice.
I thought it was nice. I thought it wasn't nice because you really think that Saquon's worth $7 million?
No, but if you're talking about trying to get a better draft pick out of it, like his idea of everything is like, what's the best thing for the team? And I thought that segment said like, what's the best thing for Barkley as well?
Yeah, I just feel like that. The number they gave, I thought, was a little slap in the face. Like I would have felt disrespected if I was Saquon. So now you're just saying here what we really get for this guy, and we'd offer him $7 million. Yeah,
it's part of it. I don't know.
That's what I kind of feel is like the little bit of slap in the face. I don't think they mean it. I think it's just them giving their honest evaluation. Like I said, I don't think anybody building is ill will towards Saquon whatsoever. I'm not saying that. I just think they kind of accidentally slap in the face a little bit there. Anyway, he basically said the plan was to let him go test the market and ask him to find his value and come back and give them a chance at that point to go ahead and match their offer. Mara, then we can tell, like, I don't think I've ever seen Mara so nervous in the conversation. Like, you can tell Mara was like, said he wants him back and was nervous about not having him and what that would do to the offense. You know, I thought that was kind of interesting. Like, John Mara seemed to think that without him, the offense is kind of sunk potentially. I don't know if he's watched the offense the last couple of years. It's already sunk, John.
Yeah, it's been down there.
It's already bad. Like, what are you going to do? Sometimes you got to rip the Band-Aid off and make the right decision. I actually give Joe Schoen a lot of credit, even though I do think it was probably a little bit manufactured, the scene. But I do give him credit if that's how it went down, the real conversation, not the one they taped. Because, you know, I'm not wrong in this. They probably did tape some of this stuff like after the fact. Like, let's recreate the scene now. You tell me you want to keep Saquon, I'll tell you no. Like, that's... You know I'm not wrong. Yeah. You're even shaking her head. You don't want to admit it, but you know I'm right.
I'm just thinking like scenes from The Boys. Like, oh, how real is this?
That's basically what it is. I mean, all reality TV show is not real. But I give Joe Schoen credit if that's how it went down for saying his opinion in a respectful way. He wasn't just a jerk about it, but he was firm and stood his ground with the guy who really signs his paycheck. Like, that's not easy to do, guys.
No, but that's also what it's respect to both things, because that's what Mara brought him in to do.
Yes.
Is to help Mara himself, take his heart out of the thing and let someone else that has better football IQ to manage his team.
Yes.
Make the best decisions for his franchise.
Yeah, it was. I thought it was very interesting, just in general, the way it went down. I thought that was kind of interesting, and I think that the fact that Mara wanted to keep him shows me Mara is, and a lot of people have said this in the past, a little stuck in the past, because you don't build around a running back, especially a 27-year-old running back. You don't. It's not safe in the long run.
That's not the part that stuck to me. Is the fact that he turned around and said we should maybe draft high for one. Is what stuck out to me, saying that he's stuck past.
That was my next point. Yeah,
I was about to say, like, the fact that he wanted to keep Barkley means there's a good, solid relationship, and like I took that as like he liked the guy, and like, you know, Barkley was
a relationship, all right. Jersey sales and Campbell Soup commercials, and I mean, again,
but it worked both. Like, Barkley
it's easy
worked
to say
well.
That's not important when you're not the one collecting that money.
Correct. So, you know, once Mara turned around, and you know, she hammered me for not reading the notes, but once Mara turned around, it's like we should read high, like we should draft high receiver, like receiver.
Yeah.
As a running back, and like changing around, like, but it's that the position.
Yeah, I said it was very interesting, because what he said basically is he wanted to draft one high, and then Joe Schoen says, or we can sign him, and mentions Singletary as a value, mentions Mixon as a draft candidate, which he did get cut eventually, and that with Barkley, Jacobs, Pollard, and Eckler, makes it a spot to get value in the second week of free agency, which is what they did. They waited to see who fell and got Devin Singletary in that second wave, so to speak, there. Smart move, I thought, overall. I still think it's a smart move. Then Joe Schoen has the meeting with the staff in mid-February, saying that franchising or trading him doesn't seem realistic. They basically understood the risk of letting him walk right off the bat, and they were discussing if somebody would pay him a lot given the crowded free agency running back class, which is a valid point. We all thought that was a valid point. There was a ton of good running backs in this class of free agents. Joe Schoen basically turned down the idea of a tag and trade due to the risk if they can't find a trade partner, which, again, kudos on him, because I agree with him. What were they going to get? Like you're gonna let this guy, you're gonna try to hold on to this guy, hoping to get a 3rd round pick, 4th round pick, potentially tie up that much money in free agency. Smart move. I'm telling you right now, if they had done that, they probably don't get Brian Burns.
No, not at all.
And I'd rather have Brian Burns than a 3rd or 4th round draft pick. Call me crazy. Yeah. And I'm the guy who was complaining just last night about the contract.
I was about to say, you were just complaining about it 2 nights ago.
Or 2 nights ago, sorry, yeah. But here I am saying that. It's the truth. Not a good contract, but a whole lot better than overpaying for an aging running back. Anyway, they then talked about the price tag and his age, making it pretty obvious that he just didn't want him. And again, that's not a wrong move.
I mean, I don't think it's not that they didn't want him. I think at the end of the day, what I took away from the very end of it was you just put a lot of money into 2 players this past year.
Yep.
One may or may not be the future. You got to put weapons around him. In the modern NFL, one of those players is not as important as the other. And newsbreak guys, your running back is not as important as your quarterback.
Yeah.
So, at the end of the day, like, they're trying to do what they can. Even though we're talking about Barkley here, they're going to try to do what they can for DJ to make or break him. And Barkley, as an aging running back, is a guy that's, I don't want to say he's on this downward swing yet, but I mean, as Giants fans, we can kind of see that's the case. But to pay him, what, $13.5, $14 million, or free that up and get better opportunities, and just like Shane said, we're going to pay these top 4 guys, or we're going to get other positions we need: quarterback, rushers, and number 1 wide receiver.
Yeah. I mean, it's like I said. I don't think they were wrong. I gotta say, they seemed also a little bit upset with how much time they spent negotiating with Barkley last year. Like they kind of alluded to that, like, oh, we can't go back down this road again for this many months going over this. We need to make a decision now. Yeah,
there was a quick little it
was a quick little dig at that situation last year, and it makes you wonder. Like they were like, well, we tried to do this last year, and you didn't. You had your chance. You effed it up, not us. But that's kind of the vibe I got out of that whole situation.
Yeah, I mean, they also didn't hang on that situation, so like,
no,
I didn't take.
Yeah, it was one line, one comment, real quick. It wasn't anything crazy. Wasn't harping on it, but I just felt like it was pretty obvious they were still upset about that, you know.
Yeah.
But in the end, Joe Schoen said he wanted to focus on Daniel Jones and improving the team around him, as opposed to keeping a running back around a top dollar contract. Again, the right move. I thought perfect move. It's what you should do. It's smart football. You don't build around a running back in a passing league, which is ironic. We're talking about stopping the run of defense, but that's what this is. It's a passing league, guys. You don't run the ball. And Saquon would have been a freaking stud and a star probably if he played in the 90s.
Oh, yeah.
Assuming he could have stayed healthy. When teams built to do this, teams weren't built to run like he does. They're not. So it's not all about run. It's about pass now. So he just, unfortunately, for the guy, he kind of was, brought up in the wrong generation. So, all right, guys. Next week, they will be discussing, based on what we saw, at least in the trailer, the combine. So, we'll be doing reporting on that as well for you guys there and giving our thoughts on that episode there. Hopefully, we'll get a more insight into what the Giants.
What's your over-under on Dable doing that, the 40-7? If there's wings at the end.
I don't think that it does it. I don't think he does it at all. I think he's lucky to get a 6 at that point, 7.
Well, that's what you say. Do the 40-7.
Oh, I'm sorry, but yeah, I mean an 8 or a 9. Like I don't think he's anywhere near a 7. He has.
You got to put wings.
He has lost some weight.
You got to put wings at the end.
I think they should do it. I think they should do it. Kind of like John Boy Media always has Justin Pennick go out and do his run for every combine as well. I think they should do it. And who's the other guy that does it? It was at ESPN. Was it Rich Eisen or Kenny Mayne or one of those guys who used to do it as well? ESPN and then NFL Network. I forget who it is. One of those guys used to do it. But yeah, no, he ain't doing that. But yeah, again, guys, tomorrow night tomorrow early, I should say, we'll be live again for you guys. Again, we'll be doing that early so that way you guys can enjoy your 4th of July festivities, as can we. So keep an eye. We don't have exact time hammered out for that. There'll be late morning, early afternoon. So go ahead and just make sure you hit the like and hit that subscribe. That's how you'll know. Again, we are always live every Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter/X, Twitch, and of course, Rob's favorite, my LinkedIn.
Drew's LinkedIn.
And as always, we are live the next day, available on all the audio podcast platforms there: Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcast, Google, all the big ones there. So if you haven't already and you like audio podcasts as well, make sure you hit the like and subscribe on there. If you like to go on both, hit all the like and subscribe on them all. Subscribe everywhere you can, guys. And if you haven't already, share it to a friend. Let someone know about the show. That's how we grow the show there. Haven't spent a dime on advertising, and our subscription numbers show it. So it's okay. It's okay. The views are up. But guys, appreciate you guys listening. As always, if we don't have you guys on the show with us there tomorrow, have a happy and safe holiday weekend there. Remember to stay safe, whatever you're doing, whether it's fireworks, don't JPP it up.
I'll come back.
If you're going boating, keep one person sober to drive the boat, because I can't too many boat accidents happen this weekend. Happens every year. Like I said, stay happy, stay safe, drink, do stupid things, but do it responsibly.
100%.
Keep one sober person to be the parent. As long as it's not me. All right, guys. We'll see you guys again tomorrow night, or tomorrow, I should say. Tomorrow afternoonish there. So appreciate you guys listening, and as always, Giant fans, go Giants!
Thanks for listening to Two Giant Goofballs, a New York Giants podcast. We appreciate your support.
Thanks so much.